if there is anything for me I want to stress for myself and hopefully for other people, it is to get them in a state of reality where they can survive. And I think one should know their enemies and the enemies of common sense, and should also know perhaps what are the best techniques to fight those who wish to do you harm, and how to live the best life you can within the circumstances that we are living now. The revolution has started is something that was said by one of the BLM supporters, and there has been a revolution going on, and the revolution has taken hold. We are living in the information age, but not really. Social media has made it the age of censorship and punishment, and they have emboldened a lot of people. So how can you defend yourself against cancel culture and against others? It is a difficult situation, and there are no really solutions. There are trade-offs, and you have to be honest with the trade-offs that you're willing to accept. I do have my partner, Joe. Joe may come in with a different perspective than I do, but I see things perhaps differently, and that's okay. You're going to come in contact with that in life. So here is Joe. And Joe, if you want to give your perspective, I'm going to put myself on mute. While
I
you
mean,
do
just a couple points, and one is I find myself in a world that I find to be mentally ill for a lot of reasons, and I'm talking through personal experience. But an issue that comes to mind is in this world, if we can find ourselves in a place where, well, first of all, if people can set aside this whole my reality versus your reality, there's one reality from my perspective, and the biggest issue of this reality is that fewer and fewer men and women are willing to self-govern, and that's a big concept. It's a loaded phrase, but to self-govern is not easy. We also live in a society that is designed, the systems of media and education are designed to make us forget, and being able to remember our powers and our ability is so supreme and so superior to the garbage we're given. But time and time again, I'm shocked at people's lack of willingness to self-govern. And if you don't know what it means, just do some research. Just do some thinking on it. Really, just do some thinking on what it means to self-govern. And that was really just what I wanted to add to what you said, because I think you're making a good point here.
I put my Discord, I just turned it off just because. And I want to mention that the show.
Let me just also add that that was not mine. That is coming from a perspective from somebody who's trying my hardest to self-govern and to lead by example for the people that are around me who don't know how to self-govern. I'm sorry if you live in a car. I'm sorry the middle class is getting wiped out every day. I'm sorry for all that. It's not my problem though. It's not something I set out to enforce or to make worse. That's something that I've always tried to make better for people. But go ahead.
It is more difficult to self-govern, particularly if you are if you are if you are if you're living in this day and age, and let's cut that out. It is more difficult to self-govern in this day and age, perhaps. Um, a lot of people are self-governing can be really hard. It can also be extremely humiliating because when you self-govern and you put your skills out there, you may not have the skills to necessarily compete. And Joe, you put an interesting point about the umbilical cord. When we're at the moment of conception, we are dependent upon the womb. We are dependent upon the female, the mother. And then when we are born, we are helpless, and we have to navigate through society, and we have to decipher what is real and what isn't, what our skills are, what we can do and what we cannot. And a lot of times we fall into traps of ego that will not make you happy. I mean, in the end, they will not make you happy. But I think there's a difference between, because sometimes people believe they have the truth, and it becomes a sense of ego for them. But there is for me, there's a sense of truth to the world, the way it works. And it's not a sense of ego. It's kind of a sense of, man, it's a lot tougher out there than you think, to a degree. But I think it's good to strive to be tougher, to be strong, and to put hell on yourself. So when hell does come to you, you can resist some of it. And there are people out there that will inflict hell upon you for whatever reason. And I think it's a good idea to be prepared for that. I'll let you respond to what I just said.
I'm so sorry, but I didn't quite get. I caught you eating your hand, but I'm not sure exactly what you were saying there. You're talking about dependence versus independence, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, and it's to me, there's one answer, and that is that people claim their origin, their true origin. You said a word, by the way. You said a really important word, and I'm not sure if you meant that as your beginning, but can you tell me the word you used from the moment of?
Put yourself on the moment of conception.
Now, are you claiming that as your origin, your beginning? Because I did a survey of almost 300 people. All right, it was 278 people. 276 of those 278 people gave me the same answer as you did. I asked one question: what is your origin? And I think it's important. It's an important word. It's an important concept. For a lot, it leads into It leads into many hours of understanding. Okay, and I mean this sincerely. I've seen the results, and I've seen I've seen what can be done. when everybody is able to claim their origin rather than their given birthday. And people mistake this, what I'm saying, for this whole concept of a sovereign citizen, which it is not, or a patriot, which it is not. It is completely, it's an idea that is completely lost on almost, like I said, that survey was a great indicator. About 99 point some odd percent of the people. So I'll just lay it out there because you said conception. You said the word of conception since the moment of conception, and that is not biologically, that is not the origin. And to make the claim of conception is basically to stay exactly where we're at right now. All right.
I stand corrected. I believe your origin is in the moment of fertilization, is the moment that where your origin comes from, once you are fertilized. But that is,
And what you were saying is right, though, because then conception is when everything kind of settles down into the matrix of mother's womb, and that's where we do, we find that's where we're nourished, and that's where we begin to maybe find that sense of dependence. So I get what you're saying. I just was asking as a general question.
so from the moment of fertilization, we are dependent upon the mother's womb. The mother is dependent. I mean, it has to get food and nutrients into her, and hopefully, and that's where life begins, with the advantages or disadvantages in life. And then when you are born, how you are nurtured as an infant, and as you grow older, how you are nurtured as a child. From childhood becomes adolescent, and how you are nurtured there. And sometimes you're not nurtured, and you're not respect. I mean, I think that most human beings, perhaps, and they have ever been respected. I don't know of a child, like I don't know of a person where they were respected as a human being, the children were respected as human beings on average. But I could be wrong on that. But I feel that you don't have to give in to children, but I think that children should be respected. Uh, and then you can really get into the fact that you can honor your mother and father if a child feels uh, respected, and his needs and stuff are somewhat consulted. Doesn't mean he's going to get everything he wants, but he is a human being, is respected. And I don't have children, so I don't know if that's even a possibility, because children drive you nuts. And the same thing with work. I mean, when I'm at my job, I do try to respect and not be angry at people. There are things I have to enforce, but I strive to give respect sight unseen, and a person earns my disrespect. And I'm seeing a lot of disrespect in today's culture, and a lot of emotion, and a lot of arrogance and ego on either side, and that can be with me as well. The way I've handled things, uh, ego is a drug, and it's I. You say that there's a healthy ego. I don't know if really there is. I think that a happier person kind of lets go of his ego and lives to the best of his ability, but kind of relinquishes that and does what is morally right, regardless of how it affects others, or actually how it what others think. It's for the greater good. Anyway, I don't know if you have a comment about what I've just said, but
So I'm going to say something that it might sound way out there for people because it is. And it took hours and months and years of, of personal searching and understanding to realize that there has been a claim put on the mitochondrial DNA, the fetal maternal aspect of birth. Okay, and with the mitochondrial DNA it's basically our life energy. It's our for everybody. It comes only from the mother's side, and it gives us our energy, our ability to get on our 2 feet and go to work or produce or do what we do. And I feel like that's all we've lived in a society where that has been controlled. And I think we are now in a post-truth sort of world where these ideas and concepts have been figured out. It was a perfect idea that worked for a very long time, for generations. And if anybody knows what I'm speaking of, I'm going back to the 1930s. And so this is a long, our whole society is sort of in the clenches. And I think we're coming out of that. I think we are understanding this now. I think we are getting our life forces back. And I think people are unaware of how to even self-govern at this point, to take the next step and walk on their own 2 feet without being handed something. And and it's been a real eye opener for not only my own, and I'm speaking for my own life more than I'm speaking about anybody's life. Really, it's been an eye opener. And the more I do it, the more vicious I have, more viciousness I've witnessed, I've encountered in my own life because of my lack of wanting anything from anyone. If I can't do it for myself, now that doesn't mean it's a bad thing to give. That's a totally different concept. And I do, and I receive, I give and receive, but not just sexually, Brian. Get your mind out of the gutter. I'm just making the point that we have that ability. What's up, Darren? He's here. He's probably wondering what JP's on about, and I'm on about self-governing today, and kind of riffing off what Brian has stated. The revolution has begun. There are people who are not looking for remedies, okay? Because remedies is one of those patriot words, I think, that gave a lot of people hope in recent years. Oh my God, JP, you can tap into your social security number and get a big bag of money. You can't do that. There's no money there for you. People have a warped concept of what's at the end of this rainbow. At the end of this rainbow is self-governance. And I think having the ability to do it on your own 2 feet is absolutely the key here. It's not about seeking retribution. It's not there. The bad people have already wrapped up all that money and run for the hills. That's what all this has been. It's been one big colossal opportunity for the diabetes task force has arrived. I think we've gotten to a point where those people have the truly bad ones have had all the opportunity to take those bags of money and run for the hills, and untouchable at this point. So I'm just pointing it out that there's no point in going into your Federal Reserve note ID or whatever hell weird concepts are out there on that, and you've got to understand that giving back what was never yours is probably going to be the most effective outcome here. And I think over time I'll be able to explain that a little better, what that means, what that entails, what exactly are we giving back, what exactly is it that we have that isn't ours and never was ours and never will be ours. These are all really heavy ideas that deal with the ideas of the concepts of property, ownership, and like you said here, that revolution has started. So I think when all of these ideas are crystallized for everyone, it's going to be a lot easier to take steps forward, and actually for the first time, for many people, it'll be the first time they've ever self-governed. And sad, but it's also it's pretty enlightening and pretty I don't know, I guess I've always had a little bit of an optimistic twist to what I say, but anyways, go for it. Y'all will be dead before any of that change. No, get out of here. Go. I think it's now. You're right. I hope it is in our lifetime. It could, you know, that's another idea too. Is this change happening now, like in our lifetime, or is it going to happen 100 years from now? I'm not sure. I can't answer that either.
Well, Joe, I wanted to mention out there in the audience, and I'm glad I get a few people that are out there listening. I'm so grateful. And the show that I did yesterday was not up to quality, and I hope this one gets a little bit better quality. But anytime new technology comes around, everyone says you have freedom of speech, but it has been proven time and time again that the powers that be do not want to be criticized. And when, of course, when movies, when movies were first invented and they started to become popular, that's when you started to see certain restrictions like the Hays Code and the Legion of Decency. The Legion of Decency was an offshoot. Was part of the Catholic Church, and they would basically say what was decent and indecent. And the same thing with radio. You know, radio was broadcast throughout our homes, and there was, you know, that's when the FCC was invented to have censorship, to have things that were, you know, basically at the time it was things that were offensive to Christians and offensive to America. Now, you know, there are powers that be that have controlled the narrative, and when that narrative, when you go against that narrative, now they consider it hate speech. That's the new heresy. Before it was things that were offensive to Christians. Now it's things that are offensive to. Now it's whatever offensive to so-called minorities or so-called protected classes. Arts now and now it's considered things that are considered conspiracy theories. It's just too the powers that be think that information is too dangerous in the hands of the masses. You see, YouTube right now is getting rid of their like to dislike ratio, their thumbs up and their thumbs down, so the masses cannot speak. And and corporate media has an ideology. I'll go into that later, what that ideology is, but they do have an ideology, and if you challenge it, they will come after you because they don't want their faith. Just as the Catholic Church, the Christian faith, didn't want itself to be challenged. Well, the ideological left does not want to be challenged, and the ideological right is the same thing. It does not want to be challenged either. So I mean, at least I am, and I believe Joe is as well. We want information out there. We want information. We don't think that information is dangerous for the masses. We think people can. We think people can decipher for themselves what is true and what is false. You may agree with me or you may agree with Joe or disagree with Joe. You may agree with me and or disagree with me, but that's your choice to do that. Anyway, Joe, I think this will do it for the show. Whoa.
Sorry.
Let
Did I you into echo mode?
let me add you in and then say a few words, and then I'll wrap it up.
All right. Who's coming in?
Nobody's coming in.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you were talking to me. I gotta give a shout out to the Antifa members in our crew tonight. Today, High Ridge Estates. What's up? Shout out from Antifa land. And if I could just say one thing, Brian, I was just wanting to get your final thoughts on the outcome, the trial for Miss Rittenhouse. Thank you.
Well, we've covered that, but Ahmaud Arbery is now considered not guilty. I mean, the people that shot Ahmaud Arbery are considered guilty. I would like to examine that before I make a decision on that. I've made my views on Kyle Rittenhouse very clear on that. I think I've said that a few times, but Ahmaud Arbery, I want to look at the case before I make a decision on that. Ahmaud Arbery's killers were found guilty, and before I make a decision, I'd like to look into that. So I'm not going to make a comment on that, but I will recommend that people like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. And also, like I said, I think that I'll go again. People are when they from the moment of fertilization, they are dependent, and we are dependent on one another, regardless of whether we like it or not. I mean, there are a few hermits out there, but for the most part,
I kind of like what you said, though, man. I like the idea that I would like to think at the moment of fertilization, we're actually very much independent. We are stardust at that point. I think that there is an infinite potential, but the moment we get into when conception happens, I think it's a couple weeks later, whatever, days later, whatever it is, that time happens, and then we become attached to the womb, and we do become dependent. And so you may have nailed that even more precisely than I hadn't really thought of it from the perspective you had, that the idea of dependence may start at conception rather than fertilization. But I do, regardless, the origin begins at fertilization. Sorry to cut you off again there.
no problem. But yeah, and the moment of dependence and striving for people to I guess have a moment of truth and reality. And I think people are happy when they are less dependent and are capable and able. A lot of people who are caught up in the prison, the prison system right now, probably are not, are not that capable. I mean, I like have certain difficulties. And if you're caught up in the homeless, you're caught up in homelessness. Some of it is because of really bad childhood and also a learning difference that where you can't compete and things of that nature. And I want to examine more facts like that. What makes homelessness? Why is it about over 70%? Probably, maybe even not. I mean, what's the percentage of males that are homeless? Maybe 90%, and the rate of suicide and things like that. And what can be done, perhaps, to alleviate those problems? I think are always good avenues to talk. And humor is always fun. Anyway, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and visit our website at transparencyandmerit.com. Joe, do you have anything to add before I end this show?
I think Darren said it all. Life begins at masturbation. Good day, everybody.
All right, guys, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. And Darren, I disagree. Thank you.